Hi, welcome to a new video. I'm Camelia from Calcedonia Sewing, and I would like to share with you today my experience sewing the latest pattern from Designer Stitch, the Chelsea Cardigan. A few words about the pattern in general first. The Chelsea Cardigan is a very easy pattern to make. It's coming with 3 length options, a cropped one, hip length, and the calf length. I made 3 of them and all in the longer length. I was a pattern tester for this cardigan, and so the pattern I got for free to test, but I assure you that my opinions are completely honest. You will see, otherwise I will not make 3 of them, and I will not waste my fabric on patterns I don't like. So the Chelsea, as all the other patterns from Designer Stitch, the Chelsea Cardigan has seam allowance included, 6mm seam allowance on all the edges. Sometimes, not sometimes, but every time, if the seam allowance is different, it will be marked on the pattern. It is a very easy pattern. It has only 4 pieces. It has a back piece cut on the fold. I'll talk a little bit soon about the change I made here. So it has a back cut on the fold. It has the front. Of course, you have to cut 2 of them. The front with a cut on facing that is getting folded 2 times, and then you get immediately a very nice edge here on the front, and immediately finished also. It has a sleeve, a sleeve that is fitting really nice in the armhole with with very less ease. And of course the collar piece, which is a rectangle that is getting folded, and you see you have a few options to sew that in the garment. I'll talk a little bit later. And not to forget, you have the option to put pockets in your cardigan, and because I like to have my pockets a little bit deeper, I made the pattern a little bit bigger than it was, to give me enough room to put my hands in. And also an optional belt, very easy to make. This is getting cut double and sewn in the center back. For this one I made it in a no, not for this one. For this one, I cut it on the fold because my fabric was wide enough, and to make that it had to take a little bit out, but it is still long enough, even if you cut it on the fold of the fabric. So these are the pattern pieces for the cardigan. The instructions are of course also very good with illustrations, but it's really a very easy pattern to make. Even that is not tricky, but you have, as I said, for the color you have a few options. The color is getting sewn either first on the inside of the garment or on the outside of the fabric, then it's getting folded, and then you have the option, you need to sew it by hand. So if it depends which part you did sew first, you have to sew or this one by hand or this one by hand. On this knit fabric, sweater knit version I made, I've sewn my collar first to the inside of the fabric, and then turn it, and all my hand stitches are here, and then they are getting hidden in the fold of the collar. But for this one, and also for the third one I made, I used the burrito method or the backed method, and I have completely no hand stitching. It was a very, very fast thing to sew, and I made a small tutorial on how I sew this option of the cardigan, and there you see also the treatment I applied to sew the collar backed on the bodice, so without any hand stitches. I made a size 3 for this cardigan, and besides the pocket that I only made a little bit bigger, the only change and the most important for me was to make a suede back adjustment, as you see it here. I must say that for this version I made the straight size 3, but for the other two, because these ones are not so stretchy as this sweater knit, I chose to make the back bodies to make it like a 4, coming from the armhole down. I added a little bit width here, and I think I'm coming here more like a size 4. Okay, to make my suede back adjustment, I made the slash here. I took 2 centimeters out, and then I aligned again because of course my pattern was not straight anymore. I could not put it on the fold. You can align this on a straight edge, the top and the end, the hem. You align it and you get all this extra room there to make it again, to make your line on the center back straight, and then you have the possibility to take out here to compensate, to get again your size. I did this on this option, and it is good because the fabric is very stretchy and I have room enough. But for the other two, that's why I added back, because I think I need it anyway. But making this suede back adjustment on my pattern is making, I mean, my doll doesn't have a suede back, but also on me, as you see, is lying flat, it's not bunching or anything, and I like it. I think it was it did really make a difference. But again, this is a standard change I make on almost all the patterns I'm sewing. Now on the 3 cardigans I made. The first one was this one in a sweater knit with enough stretch. I saw that as I said, I sewed the collar with I finish it with hand stitches here under. In this fabric is anyway impossible to see, but the idea is that you get your stitches as invisible as possible, because if this is going to fly on the side, you don't want to have ugly stitches here. And that's why a reason that I think is better to do it here under the collar than do it here on this side, that if this is getting more open, you really have the chance that your stitches are going to show. So the process is very easy. As I said, I'll put a tutorial, a video with a tutorial for this, on how I worked this with this pattern. And on this option, on this version with the sweater knit, I used, because I'm always afraid that the shoulders are going to stretch or the neck is going to stretch, so to avoid that, I used for the shoulders, I used this one. This elastic is transparent elastic. It is made to be sewn to stabilize seams like these ones, for example. So I sewed this with the serger together with the seams, with the shoulder seams. And for the neck, for the back neck, I applied the elastic on the back shoulder. So when my seam is getting pressed to the back, this is also going to cover the elastic. For the neck, for the back neck, I used I don't know how it is called in English, but in Dutch is vormband or a knot, stay tape, I think is called. And this one, the one I'm using always, is a fusible. As you can see it, you see it also in the tutorial, and it has some stabilizing threads in it, and a straight stitch, a row of stay stitching that is making it impossible to stretch. So this is perfect to use for the back neck. The same I used for this one. This is made in a ponte knit, also with a lot of stretch, and because I really wanted to avoid that my shoulders are going to stretch out and that it's going to fall completely for my shoulders. I also used this tape, as you can see it here. here is on the back, and when my seam is pressed you see nothing. Also here on the back I used it. I think you'll have to think about it that the seam is very small, it's only 6 millimeters. So next time I will keep that in mind and placed my tape, because my tape is 1 centimeter wide. It was of course way too wide for this, but you know, it's in the back of my neck and I think it's okay, but it's still, as you can see, is almost no stretch here, and this is what I wanted. So these are the two things that I found it very important to stabilize the back and the shoulders to avoid stretching, and for the rest everything is going is a really fast sew. I think I used 2.2 meter, almost 2.5 meters for each of these cardigans, and for both I used a zigzag stitch for the hem and for the hem and for the sleeves hem, because I didn't want to put my all the threads in my cover stitch, but it's working. You know, in this one is also impossible to see any thread, so I did not bother to put too much work in it. It's stretchy, and this is what is important. Now to come to this one is made in this fabric, even if it's looking like leather, it's not. It's also ponte knit. Actually they call it suede leather look, something like that, but it really is, the quality is really a ponte knit quality, because it's a suede, and you know, it's not so easy to sew as you might think, that because it has the weight of a ponte knit that you think now it is going to be easy to. It was not difficult, but I found that a few things that did make it easier to sew. The first thing I noticed was that my pins, they are not going to get in this fabric. It is pretty dense, so it was impossible almost to pin it, even with the very fine pins. So the solution for that was to use these wonder clips. These ones I never used them until now, but for this purpose it was really good. Also, something that it was difficult to do was sewing this fabric in the first place, because I was using my standard universal 80 needle, but that one didn't want to go in. So finally I chose to use a Microtex needle that is getting used for satin fabrics and fabrics that are pretty dense, and in this one is a 60 needle, size 8. So in this case it worked really well. I was really surprised to see how good was sewing in such a dense fabric. So the needle the 60 needle was the perfect choice for this. Also, this fabric you cannot, I could not press it from the outside directly with my iron. Also from the inside I used my silk organza pressing cloth, because otherwise it was going to stick on my iron, because I really wanted to keep the flow in the fabric. I didn't want to add too much bulk by serging everything, and this fabric, it has really zero ravels. It's really like leather. So to avoid all that serger thread, I was thinking I'm going to find another solution to have my seams pressed. It was pressing good, so it was not really necessary, but I really like how it's looking. I top stitched the most of the seams. Like here are the seams from the sleeve seams. I also top stitched them from the armhole. I'll take it a little bit from the mannequin. As you can see, here are the shoulder seams. They are also directly top stitch on both sides, and because the seam allowance is only 6 millimeters, I did not have to do any trimming. As you can see, here is the the seam where the sleeve is getting attached to the armhole, I also top stitch it from the outside, of course, because I want to have it on the outside on the good spot. Also, even the side seams, I top stitch them to the garment, to the back of the garment. It's not really easy to see, but because the fabric is not you can see how it's looking from the inside, it's very clean. And for the pockets, because of course I had the pockets in this one, I really like to have the pockets. I also didn't want to have the overlock threads everywhere, so I just used my pinking shears to finish them. And I used to have a very old pinking pair of shears, but that one was really terrible, so I treated myself a while ago with the Fiskars pinking shear. They are really great. You really want to pink everything. So these were the changes I'd made to work with the suede fabric. Also, another tip when you are putting your pockets in your cardigan, I think is a great idea to stay stitch the pocket bags on the seam allowances, and when you wear the cardigan you will see that the pockets are really staying there and they are not trying to roll out. So I did not do it in this one, and I think you can really see the difference, that this is really trying to go all over the place. But in this one and the purple ponte one, I also did it, and it's staying really nice. For this one, because I did not have a needle, hand sewing needle that was so thin to do my hand stitches, because this was my second cardigan. For this one I thought to how to make it to avoid any hand stitches. And for this one, as I said, I used the bag method, and you'll see in the video how it's made. And to avoid really for sure any hand stitches, I used the bag method to sew until the shoulders, and from the shoulders, this small area, I fold the seam allowance in, and then top stitch it from the good side. And because the color, the top stitching is looking really nice anyway, but the color is going to flip out like so, and then you don't see it anyway. And here is from the inside of the garment, is also pretty neat. What you need to keep in mind if you are going to have all these finishes in your in a garment without like top stitching everything, and no finishing with the serger or something like that, you need to keep in mind that the seam allowance in this pattern is pretty small, is 6 millimeters, because it's made for knits, and is and from a designer stitch did make it so that you can run it through your serger or through your sewing machine, and then you don't need to trim anything. And this is something I liked on the designer stitch patterns, because all the seam allowances are so thought that you have just you have almost no trimming, and that is always saving a lot of time. Like on the neck, and you have only 6 millimeters or 1 centimeter, or 6 millimeters, or on the waist also 6 millimeters, you have no trimming to do, and that is also saving a lot of time, and sometimes also some fabric. So as I said, I'll put here on YouTube soon. Maybe by that the time you see this video is going, also that one is going to be on YouTube. I'll put my way on sewing this pattern. Is really a really great pattern, and I'm going to keep it on the box with patterns definitely to be made again. And as you can see, I made it in 3 pretty different fabrics. This one is a pretty dense fabric, and because of this leather look, is really looking like a coat. This is a sweater knit, very casual, and the ponte knit also very easy to wear. But I saw some some testers versions made in lace, also very nice, or in a bit bulkier fabrics is also looking very good. Also the cropped one, also the hip length one. So you have really, depending on the fabric you'll choose, you have really different looks. This is what I had to say about the Chelsea cardigan from Designer Stitch. Only one thing I want to mention more about Designer Stitch. If you are on Facebook and you'll go in their Facebook group, Designer Stitch Pattern Support, I think it's called. I'm going to put a link here. There you'll see in the pin posts, you'll see that they have some promotional codes for a few patterns. They are great patterns, very well drafted with great instructions. You always get really great support there on the group. So I encourage you to go in their Facebook group and take a look. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like the video, and if you have any comments or any questions, put them in the comments here under the video and I'll be happy to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like my videos, and so you'll get a notice every time when I post something on YouTube. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it's for any help in sewing or deciding if you want to have this pattern or not. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!